Hi, I'm Rob. I'm the snowboard buyer for Snowtracks and here today with a Burton Flight Attendant. I'm going to start off by clearing up a few comments that I made on last year's review of this snowboard, because I was a little bit sort of like analytical of it, but maybe that was just because I needed to really test it in the right conditions. And the last time that I took this board out in May, conditions were perfect and this really made sense. So it's kind of giving you a feedback on those conditions and why this is such a well-regarded snowboard in the range. It really did change my opinion because we were quite lucky. It was May and there was tons of powder. It was a bit chopped up in places, and that's where this snowboard really came alive. It was so much more assured, especially for when conditions were a little bit sort of like unpredictable. It just ploughed through and just kind of made those conditions look silly. So for chopped up powder, real kind of undulations, if there was anything kind of underneath that nice kind of powder layer, you just didn't feel like you were going to be troubled by it on this snowboard. And that's kind of where the shaping and everything kind of comes in. It is a directional cambered snowboard, so you are a little bit more set back on it. You do have 10mm of taper, which is a really nice kind of starting point for powder riding, but still doesn't kind of sort of like give it any difference on piste. It sort of like by that, it still cranks turns on piste like you would want from an all-mountain snowboard, but it just works in those kind of changeable conditions. And that's potentially where, before, if I'd kind of more sort of like gone towards a skeleton key, conditions needed to be a bit more gnarlier, and this is kind of where this sits in. Whereas when conditions are a bit more kind of a bit more prime, bit more perfect, that's where I would potentially still like to be on a skeleton key. But if conditions are variable, this suddenly made much more sense and gave me that predictability that I really needed. So almost a bit of an apology about this snowboard, because conditions when we test aren't always perfect, but they were way more in line with where this snowboard should have been. And so perfect kind of like charger for when conditions are a little bit more sort of variable.